Om Tvameva Mata Cha Pita Tvameva Tvameva Bandhuscha Sakha Tvameva Tvameva Vidyam Dravinam Tvameva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva. So in the last class we have studied the 4th sutra of the Narada Bhakti Sutra. Today we will try to cover the 5th and the 6th sutra of the Narada Bhakti Sutra. As we have already indicated, the first 6 sutras defines the supreme devotion, the para bhakti. So the 5th sutra, what it speaks of? Yat prapya, that para bhakti, when you attain it, yat prapya, na kinchit vanchati, na shochati, na dveshti, na ramate, na utsahi bhavati. Yat prapya. On one attaining that means devotion, that supreme devotion, the para bhakti. What happens? Na kinchit vanchati. Such a person does not desire anything else. So na kinchit vanchati. Na shochati, does not grieve anymore. Whatever may be the circumstances in life, he doesn't grieve anymore. Na shochati. Na dveshti. All hatred falls off. He does not hate anything. Na ramate. Nor does he enjoy anything else. There is a difference between vanchati and ramate. As we go to the discussion, we will try to understand what's that subtle difference between these two. That he doesn't desire anything, na ramate, nor does he enjoy anything. To desire and to enjoy. Na utsahi bhavati. He doesn't feel encouraged to do anything else. That enthusiasm, that I will do this, I will do that. That falls off. All the plannings which speaks of some worldly gains. So that type of utsaha, that falls off. He doesn't feel encouraged to do anything else. So now let us take one by one these various characteristics which has been spoken of in this verse. That na kinchit vanchati. That once the test of this love is acquired, there is nothing in comparison with it which the soul can desire for. We find in the Bhagavad Gita the same idea has been elucidated in the 22nd verse of the 6th chapter. What it says? Yang labdhva chaparang labham manyate nadhikam tataha. Yang labdhva. By attaining that, by attaining which? Cha aparang labham. All other attainments, all other goals, all other achievements in life. Manyate na adhikam tata. They appear to be subservient to that. They become trivial compared to the attainment of that highest spiritual para bhakti, the supreme devotion. Once you attain that, every other thing falls off. In Bhagavad Gita also the same idea we find. We find Sri Ramakrishna used to say a very nice thing in a simple way. His simple words, what is to say? The taste of molasses that attracts a child no more once it tastes sugar candy. That something like molasses, it loses its taste when he tastes something more subtler. The sugar candy is supposed to be a more subtle taste, and that taste for the sugar candy, when he once tastes it, he can no more relish the taste of the molasses. So that's a simple way Sri Ramakrishna is saying. So we find this in all the religious traditions, There's a very nice story of Sanatan Goswami, that one of the 6 Goswamis of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's tradition. We know that the 6 prime devotees of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they are called these 6 Goswamis. So of them, this one of the most important Goswamis, one of the most prime Goswamis is this Sanatan Goswami. There's a very nice incidence in his life, episode. What's that? That Sanatan Goswami was actually residing in Vrindavan by the side of the Yamuna river. And he was extremely austere. He has attained that para bhakti, that supreme devotion. And throughout his day, he will be in his cottage. He will just go once for his bhiksha, for getting his alms. He will go out once. And whatever he gets, some dry bread or whatever, that's what is his food. He will come back once. And throughout the day, he was absorbed in divine contemplation. And of course, his scriptural studies, scriptural writings. So it was an exclusively spiritual engagement. And he was highly revered as a very evolved saint. Now it so happened in Banaras, in Kashi, a poor Brahmin who was worried how to get her daughter married because she was very poor. The wedding ceremony entails in some expenses, and he was very poor. So he was very much worried that how to give my daughter away in marriage. And then he was a devotee of Shiva. And one day he had the vision of Shiva. Shiva is saying that why are you so much bothered about your daughter's wedding, your daughter's marriage? You go to Vrindavan. There is one saint, Sanatan Goswami. He is a very evolved saint. And not only that, I am just divulging one secret to you. He has a touchstone. And with that, whatever, if he touches anything, that will convert into gold. So you go to him and ask for that, the touchstone. Actually, Shiva never mentioned that. Shiva just told he has a treasure. And if you ask to him, he ask for the treasure, he will give it to you. And once it is given, with that all your problems will be solved. Now, taking this as something as true, because it has came from the mouth of Shiva in his vision, in the dream. So he started for Vrindavan. And after a little search, he found the kutia, the cottage of Sanatan Goswami on the bank of the river Yamuna, living a very austere life. And now this poor Brahmin went to the Goswami, Sanatan Goswami, and just related his experience in the dream, that Shiva came to him in his dream and mentioned that you go to Sanatan Goswami, he has treasure, and he will share it with you. Now Sanatan Goswami was really very much perplexed. He said, just see the way I am staying here. Such a humble cottage I have. I pass my day just by begging for my alms. Once I go out, whatever I get in my alms, with that I sustain myself. What wealth I can you think of I can have? But this man was insistent. He said, no, it cannot be untrue. It cannot be a false statement. Shiva came. He himself, he can never speak lie. He came to my dream and has spoken of. You must be having. And now Sanatana Goswami started pondering that what wealth I have. And then suddenly he remembered that he somehow got this touchstone. And he thought it's of no use for him. What he is going to do with that? He is a recluse. He has no need for wealth. So what he did, he threw that touchstone in a nearby garbage bin. There's a heap of garbage just outside his kutia. He threw it there. And now Sanatana Goswami said, most probably that's the thing Shiva indicated. So you go and just you search in that heap of garbage, most probably you will get the touchstone. And this man went and he searched and he found that touchstone. And he was extremely elated. He came, he thanked Sanatana Goswami, and with the touchstone he started going back to his home at Banaras. He was almost halfway, and now this Brahmin was extremely greedy. He thought that Shiva says that that's the best treasure which he has, he will give it to you. Now how can it be the best treasure? He has just simply given it to me. He must be having something much precious. Shiva has said that he is going to give you the most precious. This is the thing, he threw it away. There must be something more precious. That's why he threw it away. And just unhesitatingly he gave it to me. So thinking that, this greedy Brahmin again returned and said to Sanatana Goswami that you must be having something more precious. And then Sanatana Goswami said, no, nothing. This is the only thing I had. I have nothing more precious. But he was insistent. It cannot be. This greedy Brahmin. And now Sanatana Goswami said, do you really want something more precious than what I have given you? This anecdote actually speaks, there is a living commentary of all these sutras. Very interesting. He just said that you really want something more precious? Yes, of course. That's what Shiva has said. That you will give the most precious thing which you have. Well, for that you have to go and throw this touchstone in the Yamuna river. Just go and throw it and then come back. Then I will give you something which is more precious than that. And this poor Brahmin hurriedly went and threw that touchstone in the Yamuna river and came back to get the thing which is more precious than that. And Sanatana Goswami then said, sit down and I will initiate in the Krishna mantra. That is more precious than the touchstone. The name of the God. This is the most precious thing. That I will give it to you, that mantra. And just by repeating it, you will find in your heart that the tremendous love for the divine which develops, that overwhelming love. It's something, when you will find nothing is more precious than that. So this is a wonderful anecdote, an episode we find in the life of Sanatana Goswami, which explains this idea that na kinchit vanchati, na shochati. The same verse of Bhagavad Gita, yang labdva cha aparang labham manyate na adhikam tata. The next line of that verse speaks that same idea, na shochati. Yasmin sthito na dukkhena guru napi vichalyate. One is not shaken even in the midst of the greatest calamity. Whatever calamity may come in life, nothing can disturb him, shake him. He is always equipoised. Whatever may be the circumstances in life, once he has developed that love. So this is the idea, this na shochati, that how it happens, why it happens. Now, let us try to understand that what's the cause of grief. That all our grief which we experience in life, what's the cause of grief? There are two basic causes of all our grief. Not attaining something which I am hankering for. That is one of the cause. And another, losing something which you have already attained. The thing which you were hankering for, you have attained. And then you lose it. So, in these two are spoken of as yoga kshema. So Bhagavan in Bhagavad Gita mentions that yoga kshemam vahamyam. I carry the yoga and kshema of the devotee. What is yoga and kshema means? Here the word yoga doesn't mean yoga in the ultimate spiritual sense. The word yoga means union. So when I am hankering for something, the moment I get the object of my desire. So there's an union with the object of desire. My union with the object of desire. So that in that sense, the attainment of anything which I am hankering speaks of yoga. And what is kshema? That once I attain, I may lose it. This preservation of what I get, that is kshema. Now I will find that in our life, all dukkha, all the stress comes from these two factors. That when I am trying to attain something, that constant stress is there, I may not attain it. And once I have attained it, again the stress factor is there, that I may lose it. That these two factors are always there with all our desires, with all our desires. Now, as in the last preceding classes we were discussing, that by resorting to this, all our spiritual practices speaks of nothing but resorting to the neuroplasticity of our mind, of our brain, of our mind. That what I do repeatedly, our mind gets wired up. And once it gets wired up, as if a path has been formed, and once the path is formed, I develop an obsession, a liking for doing it. Maybe I was doing certain thing out of necessity. Then I forget the necessity. Just doing it becomes my obsession. That's how we have developed this inordinate attachment to so many worldly pursuits of life. And there are innumerable such worldly pursuits. And now, in all the spiritual traditions, as we were discussing even in the last class, we find that there also, as per the practice is concerned, though our belief system may be different, though our practices, as per the details of the practices are concerned, that may be different, but there is something common in all the religious tradition. And what is that? The commonality lies in the repetition. You will go to the church, the same prayer is repeated again and again, again and again, every day. The Vesper services, the same practices every day. This, in Islam, you will find 5 times a day the same prayer they're repeating every day. In the Hindu tradition, there's a repetition of the mantra, the japa. And very interestingly, this japa is not only in the Hindu tradition. Even in Christian tradition, in Islam, there's a practice of using the rosary for repeating certain prayers, counting on beads and just using the rosary. Those who are very sincere practitioners, you find the rosary practice of counting the beads on the rosary is there in all the traditions. What it speaks of? You are resorting to the neuroplasticity. Go on repeating with a resolution. Most probably I am yet to develop love, but I am practicing as has been told by my spiritual guru. I am repeating it every day in particular time for particular duration every day. And in the process what happens? A path is created. The mind gets wired. And now I develop, one day suddenly and gradually I find that I have developed that love for taking the name of the God. Your resolution has been seasoned and at last got converted, transformed into love. It is also a type of obsession. Love for contemplating on the divine. Now, for the first time, I have developed a love which is qualitatively different from all other inordinate attachments. How? All other inordinate attachments which I have developed through the entire process of evolution, it was dependent on something external. Whether it is some, there are 3 types of Ashana in Vedanta, they say. Putraishana, Vittaishana, Yashaishana. Whether it is your desire for progeny, whether it is your desire for wealth, or whether it is your desire for name and fame. You will find they're all extraneous. It depends on some external factor. And as a result, they are always related with that worry, with tension, with the fear of losing. They all, as long as I haven't attained them, for Putraishana, the relationships comes into picture. If I don't enter into this matrimonial relationship, you cannot have Putraishana. So there is a fear, I may not get my fulfill my desire by not getting the proper match. Or it may be what you want, wealth, I may not attain. I want position in life, I may not attain. That fear is there. And once I attain, again that fear is still there. I may lose it. My relations, I may lose. My wealth, I may lose. My position in life, I may lose. So they're all associated with this fear factor. That I may not get it, and once I get it, I may lose it. But for the first time, I have developed an attachment for something which is intrinsic. That through my repeated prayers, through my repeated meditation, contemplation, that love has developed. And now you are free from the great fear. As in the Bhagavad Gita, they say, Swalpam apyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhaya. Practice a little, you will get rid of bhaya, mahabhaya, in the form of all the uncertainties of life. That's gone. Because you have attained something which no one can take away from you. As has been nicely depicted, very wonderfully depicted by Mirabai in one of the bhajans. What is that? Kharche nahi koi, chor na leve, dina dina varata savaya. Kharche nahi, the wealth can get expended. But by taking God's name, I have started getting that wonderful feeling of love, ecstasy. No one can take away from me. The more I practice, the more the wiring gets deeper, stronger. The groove in the mind becomes more deeper. And the more deeper it is, the more intensity of that love is. As Sri Ramakrishna in the last class also we are saying, that intensity of that love cannot be compared with any of the worldly love. Sri Ramakrishna used to say, to compare this divine love with all other worldly love, he used to say, you just add up the three most passionate love in our worldly existence. The mother's love for the child, a chaste wife's love for the husband, and a miserly person's love for the wealth. You add up. That can somehow explain the intensity of your divine love. Because the more you practice, the more your mind is getting wired, the more intense is becoming this love for the divine. So kharche nahi ko, it never gets expended. Chor na leve, as it is intrinsic, no one can take it away from you. And dina dina varata savaya, it goes on increasing. The more you practice, the more it increases. So now you have developed love for something which no one can take away from you and goes on increasing. So the fear factor, which is associated with all our attainments in life, that's no more applicable to this new love. As a result, what happens? The mind's natural tendency now becomes to resort to that love for the divine, and other things become subservient. They start falling off. That once, as we were giving that example, that love for the divine is just like a freeway. There is no such traffic, no cross-section. In our day-to-day life, as all the desires are extraneous, external, so we will find the wires which we have created in our mind is full of traffic. Why it is full of traffic? That there is a job, there are 100 applicants, only 10 will get. So for 90 there is a red signal. For 10 they only get the green signal. So they are all in the crisscross, in the traffic zone. But once I develop that love for the divine which is intrinsic, there is no traffic. I can develop, you can develop, each and everyone has a free way without any intersection. As in our day-to-day life, we find that when we have to go to a destination, we all prefer the freeway. We all avoid the traffic, all the roads which are intersecting. So here also the same thing happens. The mind develops a tendency to always access this free way which you have created because of your intrinsic love for the divine. And the other thing starts falling off. And thus the question of being buffeted by all the happenings of life, they all become trivial. It's not that in the life the circumstances won't come where crisis will come, where the factors of losing something will come. They will come. But those things have become trivial for me. As a result, it doesn't in any way bother me. That's why we find in the Aratrikam song, which we sing every day, Khandana Bhava Vandhana, that wonderful line is there. Sampada tava Sripada Bhava Goshpada Vari Jatha. Sampada tava Sripada. Your lotus feet is the treasure. What type of treasure? Once I can get established in it, once I can install it in my heart, then what happens? The world, all the worldly problems are at present appears like ocean. Bhava Sagar, it's an ocean. It appears, it's almost insurmountable, I cannot cross it. But when I have the divine love installed in my heart, then what happens? The ocean, the so-called ocean, becomes just like the hoof mark of a cow. When the cow is walking through a wetland, its hoof creates a mark. And if you fill it with water, such a small patch of water that even a frog can jump over it. So the ocean has become just like the hoof mark of a cow. It has become insignificant. So that's how you go beyond all sorrows. Na shochati, na dveshti, hatred. This hatred, how it originates? This hatred arises in our mind towards the things which are obstacles to the attainment of the objects of desire. That I am having tremendous attachment to get something, and there's some obstacle. This obstacle can be in two forms. That some person deliberately is there standing between me and the object of my desire, not allowing me to have it, snatching it away from me. And then what happens? That dvesha, tremendous hatred develops. So we hate someone when we find that he stands in the way of our attaining of what we want. Now, as again the same reason, as the devotee is permanently one with that love, there is nothing that can create any disturbance or any separation between him and his lover. As Sri Ramakrishna used to say, Chad Mama, Shakoler Mama. That we will find that in our Indian village lore, that the mother, when putting to sleep the baby, they will pointing to the moon and say that moon is your uncle. He is there taking care of you, soothing you. With that, they will always just have some sleeping lore and the baby goes to sleep. And all the mother is doing the same thing. Actually, as per the blood relation is concerned, this child has an uncle. But this moon is a universal uncle. So, what is actually Sri Ramakrishna indicating? That once you develop love for God, in our day-to-day life, if I love some person and I come to know that actually the one whom I love, he or she loves someone else, then what happens? Then I feel tremendous hatred, anger, rage, jealousy towards that person. Because when here my love for my object is being shared, when someone else loves it, I get deprived of it. But here, when we develop love for the divine, by being established in the core of our being, just the opposite thing happens. You will find all the religious groups, how that group has formed. Because the one whom I love, you too love. Here, just the opposite thing has happened. Here, the moment I find the one whom I love, you too love, instead of having a sense of animosity, jealousy, we bind together. Because this type of love is so universal. No one gets deprived. That when someone loves my object of love, I don't have any sense of deprivation. So there is no question of hatred, not dvesha. So we will find that this happens in two ways. That once you find that it is in no way, no one can take away the love of the divine which I have developed in my heart. It is intrinsic. And another thing, in the highest stage of Parabhakti, the devotee sees the Ishta everywhere. The world becomes the expression of the divine. In the words of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the one who is the pinnacle of the bhakti, of devotion. His life is the pinnacle, is the highest expression of bhakti we can see in this world. There what he is saying, very nice, his words are very nice. Jatro jatro netro pore, tatro tatro Krishna sfure. So just see, through bhakti also you go to a type of unitary experience. So wherever my eye falls, I see Krishna as if popping up, blooming up from each and every particle in this world. Wherever my eye falls, I see Krishna coming. Krishna is permeating the entire existence. So when you have this unitary experience, then there is no question of you and me. Dvesha comes only when there is a question of separate individualities. If everything is one, whom will I hate? As in the Bhagavatam, there is a very nice sloka. The meaning of the sloka is that sometimes it happens that accidentally while taking food, our tongue gets bitten by our teeth. And whom you blame? Because the teeth is also a part of you, the tongue is also a part of you. Though you are injured, but there is no one to be blamed because of that sense of unity. It is the same person. There is a nice episode, episode narrated by Sri Ramakrishna in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. That one day a cruel zamindar was mercilessly hitting a person for whatever may be the reasons. And now there was a holy man who was just passing by, seeing the zamindar mercilessly beating one of the villagers. His heart was welling with compassion. He went and just tried to dissuade the zamindar from that act of cruelty. Now, the zamindar being dissuaded, his entire anger now fall on this holy man. He stopped beating that villager and start mercilessly beating this holy person. And this holy person, because of this excessive beating, excessive torture, suddenly he lost his consciousness. He fell down, and the zamindar left. And then the news went to that hermitage where this holy man was staying. The other brahmacharis, the other practitioners, they came running and carried him back to the ashram, to the hermitage where he was staying. And now, to help him to come back to his consciousness, they started just pouring some water on his forehead, fanning him, and someone tried to feed him some milk. And then gradually his consciousness came back. His eyes opened. And then to be assured that he has regained his consciousness, someone asked him, "Can you just say who is feeding you the milk?" And this man, very nicely, he just says, this holy man, "The one who was beating me, he's the same person who is now feeding me the milk." The idea is, He is seeing the Lord in the zamindar, in the one who is feeding him the milk. He is seeing the Lord in everyone. So the question of good, bad, evil, everything has fallen off, because everything is coming from the Lord. The one who has bitten me is the same person who is feeding me the milk. The idea is it is the same Lord. In one form, he was the cruel zamindar. In another form, he is the person who is at present serving me. So, when because of your bhakti, you go to that state where you see your Lord everywhere, not only in you, in others, the question of dvesha no more remains, it falls off. And then na ramate, as we were saying, that there is a subtle difference between vanchana and ramana. That na vanchate, na ramate. Vanchate speaks of the state of mind that I am desiring. That is this vanchana. There's a desire is in my mind. And when I get the object of desire, the act of enjoying is ramana. I have got the object of my desire, and now I am relishing it. That suppose I enjoy a particular delicacy, and suddenly the thought of that delicacy comes in my mind. And now mentally I am constantly contemplating on it. Just craving for it. That craving is the vanchana. And now when I get it, and I start relishing it, that is ramana. That when I am enjoying it. So the act of enjoying is ramana, and the state of the mind which is involved in desiring is the vanchana. Now, so when vanchana is not possible, when the question of vanchana is no more there, the question of ramana naturally cannot arise. If vanchana is not possible, if I am not desiring, then when the question of enjoying, the act of enjoying comes, it automatically is nullified. And then the last thing which has been spoken of is na utsahi. That enthusiasm, tremendous enthusiasm, lots of plans, I will do this, I will do that. That starts a wedding off, falling off. Loses eagerness to do something for himself. Because he has attained everything. That yang labdhva chaparang labham manyate nadhikam tate. That he has attained something which he feels that everything is subsidiary to it, trivial to it. So how come he can have enthusiasm to attain all those things? They naturally fall off. In the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, we find Sri Ramakrishna has a wonderful way of explaining these ideas. What he says, a small girl's enthusiasm to play with toys disappears once she gets married. So you will find a small girl, all the toys when she is playing. That there is the toys, some of the toys represent her child, some her husband, some other relations, and with that she is playing. Some guests came, the toys are the guests, she is invited some. So all her play is with the toys. Once she gets married and have that extended family, where the children, the husband, the relatives, everyone is there. Then is there any scope for enjoying the toys anymore? No, that falls off naturally. So once you have attained the love for the divine, your enthusiasm for everything becomes trivial. Everything becomes like playing with the toys. They're all toys for me. So that vanchana, that's utsaha, tremendous enthusiasm, I will do this, I will do that. That starts falling off. There's a very nice episode in the life of Sri Ramakrishna. You will find in the Gospel it is mentioned that his nephew Hriday was staying with him, Ramakrishna. And one day, Ramakrishna found out that this Hriday, this nephew, he has started tending on a male calf. A male calf he was tending. And Sri Ramakrishna was curious. He asked, why are you just taking care of this male calf? And then Hriday said that I am taking care because this calf will grow and it will become a strong I will make it a strong bullock, an ox. I will just take it, I will just travel with it to my village, remote village in Shior, that is about 100 miles away from Calcutta, and then I will use it for cultivating my agricultural land. Listening to this, Sri Ramakrishna immediately felt unconscious. He just felt unconscious. And when he regained his consciousness, he related that what made him just fall. He became unconscious. He was shocked to hear. So that's the utsaha. This so much of planning, this small calf, he said, this is Maya. It will grow, that's why it is feeding, and it will carry it to that remote village 100 miles away, and there it will use it for plowing his land. Just see how the worldly way of life is. Thinking that, he fell unconscious. So this utsaha, very interesting. There's no further enthusiasm for attaining something else. He loses something, this eagerness for himself. That is very interesting. So someone asked this question, that we say that eagerness, all sorts of utsaha falls off. But even in our Ramakrishna tradition, we find the monks have a lot of enthusiasm. So many projects. If you go to India, worldwide, the centers, so many projects we are undertaking, so much enthusiasm is behind it, energy goes behind it. Doesn't it speak of utsaha? You are saying that all utsaha falls off? But we should remember, utsaha speaks of forgetting something personal. When it is with the idea, Shiva Jnane Jiva Seva, that idea of that unitary experience, is seeing the Lord in each and every being when you are serving, that cannot be termed as utsaha. For that the term is mattata. That I got so much inebriated with the divine love. I have left my hearth and home. I am living an exclusively spiritual life with the idea of serving the divine 24 hours in each and every being. That speaks of tremendous spiritual engrossment. So, not to get confused with the idea of utsaha as something, that enthusiasm as something which has to be totally got ridden off. You have to got rid of. Even in the next sutra, in the next sutra 6, we will find that a distinction has been made between utsaha and mattata. Utsaha is not good. When for some selfish end I am extremely enthusiastic, that of course will fall off. But you will become matta. Matta means like an intoxicated person, tremendously passionate about certain things which are related to the divine. You get tremendously engrossed for that. So once we understand this distinction, we will easily understand why from the 5th verse, when he is going to the 6th verse, it is just with that word mattata, it is explaining a lot of things. What it is saying? After saying that na vanchati, na shochati, na dveshti, na utsaha bhavati, now it is saying yad gyatva matto bhavati. He gets very much like an intoxicated, tremendously enthusiastic, mattata. As you will find in the Vaishnava Shastra, they speak of the state of Nityananda, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's associate, Nityananda. With that tremendous love for the divine made him matta. He will be just singing and chanting and dancing down the street along with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that mattata. To inspire others to the divine way of life. That is not utsaha, that is mattata. Tremendous intoxication in taking God's name. That is mattata. So that's for Nityananda Mahaprabhu, that line in the Kirtan is very famous. That Nita Yamar Mata Hati. Nityananda is just like a mad elephant. Sri Ramakrishna used to give that example of mad elephant, that our body is just like a cottage. And when the bhava hasti, your devotion becomes so intense that it has become like as strong as an elephant, it enters into that into that body, there is a wreckage. Because the body cannot withstand that tremendous, overwhelming emotion. It's a wreckage. It is the body as if starts shattering off. So that speaks of mattata, this nita yamar mata hati. So now you will understand that why after saying that he is not utsahi, immediately the next verse is saying matto bhavati. That as per his engrossment for the worldly goal of life is concerned, that has fallen. But he is not like a depressed person. Now he is matto. Matto bhavati, stabdho bhavati, atma ramo bhavati. After knowing that, the devotee becomes like an intoxicated person. And then again he is saying stabdho bhavati, becomes inert. First he is saying becomes like an intoxicated, passionate person, and then again he becomes inert. You will find apparently contradictory idea, but it's the best way to understand these verses is to go to the life of the illumined souls. Whether it is Ramakrishna, whether it is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that we will find that from one stage they are again going to the next stage. That in Kirtana, they are dancing, singing, that's full of energy. And the next moment, they are in deep samadhi, totally engrossed. Just most probably someone else has to hold them, that they have become so oblivious to the surrounding they will fall. That is the inertness which is spoken of as stabdho. And after that they say atma ramo bhavati. The selection of the words are very interesting, that one leads to the other. Let us try to understand what it has been spoken of here in this 6th sutra. Now this till 5th sutra, all the characteristics of supreme devotion mentioned, they were not externally visible to others. It is something swasang vedya. It is subjectively experienced. The tremendous devotion you are feeling in your heart. Parama prema. That your love for other things has fallen off. These are all subjective experience. But when the love really becomes overwhelming, then it starts finding expression even in your behavioral pattern, and others too witness it. So that's been spoken. All the till 5th sutra, all the characteristics of supreme devotion mentioned have no external visual signs. They were something subjectively experienced, swasang vedya. But when this supreme devotion becomes very intense, it starts manifesting physically and is witnessed by others too. Parasang vedya. Others also can see that. Sri Ramakrishna gives a very nice example. This sutra's best commentary I find, this simple words of Ramakrishna. With the simple words, that sutra becomes so easily understood. What he's saying? That if one drinks a little alcohol, one can still try to maintain balance. But when one drinks in excess, balance is completely lost. So when someone has taken a little alcohol, most probably he is in some social gathering. Others may not, though he is feeling the intoxication. It's a subjective feeling. But others may not realize it because it is yet to find expression through his behavioral pattern. He is still behaving normally. But if he drinks more, then it is impossible for him to maintain this balance. You will find that he will start, what will find? First you will find that he is faltering, his speech is becoming incoherent, he is reeling, wobbling. And then what will happen? Stabdha. Totally inert. If he drinks still more, totally inert. So that's the thing here we find. It's also, this divine love is also like that intoxication. First it finds expression as a passionate, this love, finding expressions of singing, dancing for a devotee. For other who is involved in action, it will find in tremendous enthusiasm for all the actions which speaks of Shiva Jnana Jiva Shiva, seeing the Lord in everyone and working. But it has to be interspersed by that state of stabdhata, when that tremendous inebriation becomes more intense, it takes you to that state of antardasha. In the life of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu you find they constantly swinging. Even in the life of Ramakrishna is swinging from Bahya Dasha to Ardha Bahya Dasha to this Antardasha. Antardasha speaks of this Stabdha. He has become something like inert. When he is conscious, he is not in any way involved in the worldly pursuits. He is singing, dancing, taking the name of Lord. That is Mattata. And when he is going to the still more intense absorption, he is Stabdha, totally inert. So that's been spoken of here in this verse. So what is this? So it's a similar thing we find in the divine inebriation. First stage is Mattata and the next stage follows with Stabdha. Why it happens? It can be explained by the flow. Just previously we were trying to understand the thing with the help of neuroplasticity, and this state, this Stabdhata, this Mattata and Stabdhata can be understood with the flow psychology. What it speaks of? That when I have already developed love for certain thing. Suppose I am learning sitar, instrumental music. Initially, it's not a very pleasant thing. When my skills are yet to meet the challenge, I have to have a strong resolution. I don't enjoy it. With the resolution, I'm practicing again and again and again. And gradually, when my skills meet the challenge, now a spontaneity comes. With the spontaneity, tremendous focus comes. I am so much absorbed. I'm enjoying my own performance. And my mind is so focused, all other distractions starts falling off. For the first time, you have developed love for certain thing which doesn't get satiated. That when I am relishing a dish, after the first serve, I may have the second serve, at the most third serve, and then I'm satiated. Though it's my most favorite dish, I cannot continue with it. But here, when you enter a state of flow, the time falls off. You're so focused. Why it happens? Because your mind cannot register anything. First, the external distractions fall off. Such a person, most probably, he is performing in an auditorium, sitting in a stage, where in front of him there are thousands of people. He is not at all, he is totally unaware of that. Unless he is unaware of that, he can never perform. He is so focused, he is enjoying his own play. All the tension has gone because he is not aware of the audience. He is totally absorbed. First the external distractions fall off. And then all the bodily feelings also start falling off. Like hunger, thirst. Why? Because these hunger, thirst, tiredness, everything actually speaks of biological alarm. The body's alarm system, biological alarm system is when I'm hungry, the pangs of hunger is the biological alarm. The body is saying to the mind, now it is the time for taking food. But as your mind is absorbed in something else, this alarm is not registered. The mind cannot get connected to it. So as a result, what happens? For the time being, all this biological alarm system also falls off. So when this happens, first external distractions are falling off, still you are aware of your own divine inebriation, you are dancing, you have entered a state of Ardha Bahya Dasha, and then when it becomes more intense, all your bodily feelings, that starts falling off. And then that inertness comes. Outwardly you are appearing as inert. Inwardly you are enjoying extreme joy, ecstasy. So outwardly he appears inert, but inwardly he is enjoying the ecstasy of divine inebriation. So that speaks of the stabdhata, that matto we find in the life of Ramakrishna. So many incidences. That one day he was reeling. When Holy Mother came to that room, Sri Ramakrishna was just moving up and down his own room. He was looking like a drunkard. And seeing Holy Mother, he asked, do you think I am drunk? Now Holy Mother was also of that same stature. Spiritually, they were in the same level. So she immediately, what a wonderful reply she is giving. No, why should you be a drunk? It's not that you have drunk some alcohol. You are intoxicated with the divine elixir. bhavamrita. So what a wonderful thing she is saying, that she is intoxicated with the divine love. So we find in the life of Ramakrishna again and again this mattata has been finding expression. One day in the Shiva temple, suddenly he started chanting one of the verses of the Shiva Mahimna Stotra, that Asita Giri Samam Syat Kajwalam Sindhu Patre Surataru Varasakha Lekhani Patra Murvi Likhita Yadi Sharada Likhita Yadi Grihitva Sharada Sarvakalam Tadapi Tava Gunanam Ishaparam Nayati. So what it means? That, O Lord, your glory, there is no end to it. That even if the Himalaya becomes the ink pot, and the ocean, and the dark ocean is the ink, taking the mountain of the ink, and the dark ocean is the pot, the branch of the Kalpataru tree, the heavenly tree, is the pen, and the earth is the leaf. And if Saraswati, the goddess of wisdom, if she starts writing your glory, then also it won't be sufficient. It won't suffice. So this is the verse. While chanting, he started almost shouting. Others thought he has gone mad. They were making fun of him. And that's the time when Mathur arrived. He somehow related to that Ramakrishna's state. He told, if anyone disturbs him, I will cut his head. He will be beheaded. Means that was the tremendous, the force with which he said that, just to desist others from disturbing him. So that speaks of the tremendous mattata. Sri Ramakrishna indicates this state as the Urjita Bhakti. In the gospel you will find, he mentions this mattata as Urjita Bhakti. And he says, whenever you see that, know it for certain that the highest divine love is manifested through that person. Sri Ramakrishna quotes the Ramayana and says that at one place, Rama said to Lakshmana, that whenever you see this exuberant devotion, finding expression as singing, dancing, shedding tears, know it for certain that there is a special manifestation of the divine love. So that's been spoken of as mattata. And stabdhata, as we have already mentioned, when the absorption becomes still more intense, then all the activities fall off. He becomes like an inert object. Sri Ramakrishna, the master of examples, is giving a very nice example. What he says, as the daughter-in-law enters the advanced stages of pregnancy, the mother-in-law eases her household responsibilities. The mother-in-law, you will find the daughter-in-law, the wife of the house in a joint family, she has so many responsibilities. But once she gets pregnant, it's the mother-in-law herself will reduce her work day by day as she goes to the advanced stages of pregnancy. So Sri Ramakrishna, with simple example, is explaining of this state of stabdhata. The activity starts falling off when you enter into that state of this divine inimpression. Now this divine inimpression, this inertness, apparently it appears to be inert, as if he is the same as a drunkard who has drank alcohol. Then is a drunkard and a spiritually inebriated soul same? No. As Swami Vivekananda used to say, that the opposite poles look alike. So here also the opposite poles look alike. A drunkard and a spiritually intoxicated person may look alike, but they are poles apart. The opposite poles look alike, but they are pole apart. A drunkard becomes inert because of losing consciousness. But a devotee is intensely aware within. Tremendously, that awareness is extremely intense, of his intense communion with the divine. And this intense communion with the divine, after saying stabdhata, that we may mistake it with inertness, immediately it's saying Atma Ramo Bhavati. Atma Arama. He is having Arama. Rama means, from Ram Dhatu the word Rama came. Enjoyment. Arama speaks of whenever a prefix is used in Sanskrit, it means it is used in the sense of encompassment. From the beginning to the end, it is Rama. This unending what you say, this happiness, engrossment, enjoyment. Rama means enjoyment, Ramana, enjoyment. Why was Rama's name Rama? Because seeing him, everyone used to get delighted. That's why he was Rama. So here Arama, Atma Rama, the one who delights in the self. He is Atma Rama. His delight in the external world has fallen off. So this Atma, the one who is Atma Rama, he alone can be a stabdha. The stabdha doesn't mean inertness. It speaks he's totally engrossed within. So that is what meant by Atma Rama. That the drunkard becomes inert because of losing consciousness, but the devotee is intensely aware within oneself. They're so intensely aware within oneself, his engrossment is so intense, all the external activities has fallen off. That gives the appearance of stabdhata. But he is actually enjoying within Atmarama. So now, with the sixth sutra, with the 6 sutras, the first section of Narada Bhakti Sutra, which namely the definition of supreme devotion, Parabhakti. With that it started. Why it started with that? Just to give an idea what we are supposed to attain. But it needs practice. We have to go through the various aspects of it. Now it will start. So first 6 gave the definition. Now we'll commence the other sections. Then very next section from the 7th to the 14th verse will speak of renunciation and self-surrender. These are the aspects which we have to develop gradually to attain that Parabhakti, that renunciation and self-surrender. These aspects will be described from the 7th to the 14th verse, which we will again take up gradually in the next class. So thank you all and namaskars. With this we stop over, conclude our class today. Thank you all.